the moment you name something, you give it an identity and you create it. It becomes something. This is its nature. It exists just by naming it. This is why you cannot name the unnameable. I don't know a better phrase, and if I'll try to use a term, the words will just refuse to come out. Sometimes when you try to say something and the words just don't want to come out because you know they don't describe what you want to say, or you cannot put that in words. So the unnameable, or as Simcha prefers to call it, the all-nothingness, is beyond the words and descriptions. And this is why when you name something, you give it meaning, a purpose, and existence. And this thing is beyond the meaning of existence and the is. This thing is not what is. Not because you cannot name it. Of course you can name it. You can call it in whatever name you want. Simcha chose the name all-nothingness to describe this undescribable, unnameable thing, but in the very core of its being, of what it really is, it is beyond name. And it's not beyond name because you cannot call it something. It's beyond name because the mere act of naming it is like denying the true essence of what it is. What it is beyond naming, is beyond description. Every attempt to describe it in words and call it by any name just kills it. It kills the ability to perceive that, just to try and perceive its nature. When you call something in a name, like if you choose to call this thing God, God is not a word, it's an essence, and it's so just full of meanings and historical references and psychology and rituals, and God is not a pure word. So you cannot call this thing God. You cannot call this thing nature. Nature is connected to the phenomena that you can see. You cannot call it by any name, because every name narrows it down to something, and it's not something. The most accurate description of this thing was by Nisargadatta Maharaj, my favorite teacher, my favorite truth-telling entity, expression, which I recommend. If you don't know him, just listen to him. He said, I am that. And that is such a beautiful description, because that is the most plain, ordinary word. It's almost slang. It's that. I don't know. Don't bother me with what is that. It's that. You can think, you cannot grasp into anything in this description of that. This is just what is. This is that. So I like it so much because it's so, it tries to avoid this trap of defining this undefinable thing. So when you say I am that, it is the most open description that you can imagine to this thing. It's an invitation for you to just try and figure it out. What does that mean? In comparison, my own nothingness is very descriptive, like it's everything and nothingness together. This is how I tried to, in a word, just try to use an expression which will not be familiar to anyone, because there is no history or psychology beyond this new pairing of the words. So maybe the mind will stay open. When you say, I am, you mean that you exist. I am. But when you add to this I am something, you must be sure that this something is what you are. And you should think, if you want to explore your true nature and to discover what you are and do it yourself, of course you want to know, what am I? The question itself, what am I, is the first trap, because it assumes that you are. What am I? I am something. What is it? What is this thing that I am? So you ask a question which is wrong. You are not. The basic assumption is wrong. So of course the whole sentence is wrong. You are not. When you say, I am God, I am everything, I am nothing, you immediately become something. And when you are something, you are not this thing, because this thing is beyond some things, beyond phenomena, beyond expression, the way we perceive it, and beyond definition. Beyond the familiar, beyond something you know, beyond is also a word that you can be trapped in. What does it mean, beyond? Is it somewhere else? No, it's here, but it is beyond the here, beyond the now. It is the now and the here, but it is beyond it. So the definition creates the illusion of existence, the mere definition. We are ideas expressing. This thing is a giant, like, creative idea or thought, or just liveness that is capsulated in the form of nothingness, of void. This thing is kind of a void of nothingness, but these two words, void and nothingness, are connected with this perception of the world, of something and the lack of something. The void is in comparison to the is. There, you know the word of the is, of the things that are, and the void is the exact opposite of this isness. And the true meaning of this void, though it has something in common with the lack of isness, is not the lack of isness. It is the isness. This void is not lacking of the things. It is the things. This is why it's inaccurate to say, to perceive the word void as you know it. But something inside this reality is, or nothingness beyond words is, for lack of a better word, empty. And empty not in the sense of the opposite of full. Because we live in the world of opposites, good and bad, light and darkness, empty, full. But this emptiness is not the opposite of fullness. It is just emptiness. There is no fullness. And this is why the nature of this emptiness is not the nature of the emptiness which is the opposite of fullness. It is a different kind of emptiness. In the Bible, Adam was ordered by God to name things. And it's a metaphor for creating life. It's not naming them. They did not exist before he named them. And the mere act of naming something is acknowledging it, looking at it, and perceiving it, and by doing all that, creating it. So the act of naming this thing is dangerous. People use this naming of this thing to harness this power so they can use it, so they can manipulate, so they can create communities and gain power over people, or just put everything in order so there will be some logic in their lives. How can you go through life without naming anything? Just la 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 la. This is, I don't have a name for it, but this is reality. It's looking directly at what is. You don't need to name it. When you see a flower, it's beyond the flower. You don't say, here I am seeing, and this is a flower. It doesn't matter the name of the flower. It doesn't matter what shape is the flower. In the direct experience of the thing itself, of becoming the thing itself, names are just ridiculous, because everything has one essence, one name. It is a game, like a coloring book that you color, and the names are like the colors, and it creates, it's like inside the lines, but the lines are there. The meaning is there, the painting is there. It doesn't matter what it is called. The separate form has a name. The separate form has an identity. You have a name that your parents gave you. You know how to name your cat. You know how to name your neighbor, and you know how to name every object in your surroundings. It has a name, it has a meaning, it has an existence. So the name itself belongs to the stories. It's like the names of the character in the stories. So you become familiar with the names after a chapter or two, and you use the names. It's very easy to use names to describe the plot. Is it the story? No, the story lies in the events and what happens inside the story. The names of the characters really doesn't matter. If Anna Karenina was called Batsheva Karenina, it wouldn't have mattered. It wouldn't have changed her tragic story. The name does not define the phenomena. If we name something a bird, so you immediately think about the shape and the fact that it can fly, and the colors and the definition. It's like you stuck it inside a dictionary, a bird. I know what it is. But the meaning and the essence of the bird itself is totally different. A bird is freedom, freedom to fly. A bird is intuition. These are the qualities which are a bird. This is one example to see how the name of something limits it so much to a narrow dictionary meaning that steals the essence. Naming it is creating it the way you want to create it. You create the meaning by naming it, and then you lose the meaning. It's okay, because this is how this illusion is built. We name things. But I suggest you look at the higher meaning of everything that has a name. And beneath the name, what is it? Under the name, what it is, its true meaning, its true nature. What is the true nature of a tree? Is a tree because it has trunk and leaves and branches, or it gives fruit and is generally green? Is that a tree? No. A tree is something else. A tree is like growth, ability to expand to both sides, ability to express processes of creation of something, like in fruit. It is a creation, it's a process. This is what a tree is. It's the idea of a tree. It's the idea of this thing. So when you take into consideration these two examples of the bird and the tree, you can try to connect to when you try to describe the indescribable and see how the name immediately turns it into something so plain, so connected to this world, and it just misses the entire thing, the essence itself. But you have to use names, so you can try to call it, but I recommend that if you try to think about this thing, you should invent a word of your own, one that is yours, one that you didn't hear somewhere. Try to describe it, try to invent a word for it, so it will be clean of every other opinion or perception or prejudice or something. It will be pure, it will be your word, it will have no connotations, it will be free. This will liberate your character and also put it in the most beautiful place of unknowing. The grand mistake of humanity is that it thinks, it knows. This is the ignorance. Humanity believes it knows what it is. But the place of not knowing, not being able to name something, or name something in a way, in an unexpected way, your way, is to throw yourself into the unknown, is to try to shake the core beliefs and the core definitions you were brought up with, or you know, or you believe. Something new, something unknown, because this thing is unknown. undescribable, unnamed, so you can unname it. Like try to take these knots and to open the string and to see it. What is it? If you want to realize what you are, you must be very loyal to your character's separate abilities and form and just mind, the way it works. So being in this place of not knowing, being in this place of inventing, of creating your own way, is the only way that you can try to break free from this misconception of knowing. And even if you believe you know that you don't know, you still use inside your inner chit-chat the same old phrases and beliefs. So when I say the unnamed, or the thing that is beyond descriptions, and not naming it is a good start, or naming it, knowing that it is unnamed is a good start, and creating your own name for it is the way to cope with it. But the main thing is to shake, really, really shake your core, to understand what it means, what it really, really means when this thing is declaring that it cannot be perceived. So it really cannot be perceived. So don't try to think how you can just put it in some kind of logical thing that, okay, this is, I'm trying to realize that, and I'm putting it in some kind of drawer of emptiness, of quietness, of bliss, of all these descriptions Simcha uses. She uses these descriptions. Everyone is using these descriptions. But they are not the thing itself. And hanging and clinging to the words is dangerous for the independence of the explorer, the one who explores. The one who explores this thing, your character, has to be very, very independent and very, very bold. And afraid. I wish for you to be just not afraid, like you're scared of something, but like just lost. Just really lost. What does that woman want from me? I'm listening, I'm trying. I really understand. I try to understand. I'm getting there. What does she want from me? Why is she harassing me? Why can't she say that it's like that and you should dig into something? Why doesn't she help me? Okay, this is the way she can help you. Just pull the rug under your feet over and over again and say, no, 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 I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Everything I have said in all my words and all my descriptions can never describe this thing, can never name this thing. And everything is just like a light from a distant star that you see billions of light years later. This is not a thing. It's the reflection of the reflection of the reflection of the reflection of something, and this is what you get. And you try to harness it, and you try to use it. But you cannot be nice and encourage you to go somewhere, or to encourage you that you are on the right path. You are on the right path, of course. There is no path, of course. You are this thing, of course. Everything is this thing, and you are the thing that is beyond the words. And all of this is just an expression of something, I don't know why. it has to express like this, like there is someone who's speaking to a camera, and you listen and it tells you, I cannot help you, because you don't need any help. But inside this crazy game we play with ourselves, the character Simcha wants to make you so unsure of yourself, so lost, so confused. She wants you to not be sure. She wants you to be vulnerable. She wants you to question everything. She wants you not to take anything or anyone's words as they are and trust them and just follow them. Not anyone's words, not hers, of course, her suggestions. She wants you to just sit back and say, okay, this is not it. This is not this. This is not. What is it? When you don't know, you are aligned with this thing, because you don't have this hubris, this presumption to know. It's ridiculous to try to know this thing voluntarily. Like, I'm deciding that I want to be familiar with this unnamable thing, and now I will read about it, and now I will hear about it, and now I will know. This is not how you know the unnamable. The unnamable, this all-nothingness, as I call it, is within the borders of your expression, and always in the moment of your expression, and always in the, and it, you can feel it or sense it when you lose yourself in the moment, when you are immersed in the moment, when you are acting in the moment, creating in the moment for the benefit of others. Usually you do that when you forget yourself in the moment. This is the expression of the unnamable, and you cannot name the sensation that you have when you lose yourself in the moment. When you don't exist, it's just something happening, an event that is happening without the chatter, the endless chatter in the mind. When it's quieting down. This is what happens when you are immersed in the moment. And every other existence of the character is this non-stop dialogue inside the mind of, and just giving yourself explanations, over explanations, over explanations, and agreeing with this explanation and disagreeing with these explanations, and getting to some kind of conclusion that allows you to continue, because you know, okay, this is the conclusion so far. And of course, this is the conclusion so far, but don't hang on to it. This is only the conclusion so far. This is where you got. And you have to continue this journey of self-exploration. And this may sound like a paradox, because I'm saying, don't know. Don't know. But this is the thing itself. Maybe it's the way of elimination. What is it not? And you can see that any conclusion you get to doesn't satisfy you. It doesn't give you a true, clear answer. It doesn't give you a direct experience. This is why it's not the right answer. It doesn't matter what the answer you got or what the answer you are walking around with. It's not the right answer of what this unnamable thing is. So stay in the unknown. Stay in the just defying everything. Just objecting to every attempt to name this thing and to know. And by not knowing, open yourself up to knowing yourself.